Welcome to Reading Reddit. Today we are going to be reading from a post by the user I am Stargirl. What's a weird childhood ritual you still do today? I got my dog Snoopy when I was 10 years and ever since he was a puppy he had this love for lettuce. He would go absolutely nuts for it, and so whenever I had a sandwich or a burger I would give him some of my lettuce. Over the years it became a ritual that whenever I prepared any food that involved lettuce for myself, I would grab extra lettuce for him so I could toss it to him as I ate. He passed away 4 years ago after almost 17 years together, but I still find myself grabbing that bit of extra lettuce for him. When my mom would hold our hands as little kids, she taught us this thing. She'd squeeze your hand 3 times and that meant I love you. You'd squeeze back 2 times and that meant how much, then you'd both squeeze really hard at the same time and that meant lots. I taught it to my husband when we got married and I've taught it to my 2-year-old son. I'll teach it to my daughter. But the time as an adult that stands out the most was at my grandfather's funeral. We all had to walk out of the sanctuary after his coffin. I had been strong the whole time, but started to cry walking down the aisle. It was also final. My sister caught up to me and grabbed my hand. She squeezed it 3 times and we went through the whole thing. Until a few months ago I stood up to wipe. Had no idea I was doing something weird. Until my wife walked in and she has been making fun of me ever since. Sometimes I hike my leg onto the sink so I can really get in there and be sure. As kids, we always got to open our birthday presents in our parents' bed first thing in the morning. Before school, before breakfast. We still do that today with our own kids. My son is in his mid-teens and I think he wants us to think he's too cool for this, but he likes it still. My wife didn't get this at first, but I insisted. She now loves this since her mom put her presents out on the coffee table in the morning but made her wait until the very end of the day, after dinner, to open any of them. My Mill is a raging narcissist and like to exercise control in any petty way could mister. This among them. My wife pointed out that we did it this way in our family and it annoyed the piss out of my Mill. Didn't you like the anticipation? Mom, I was fucking 5 years old. No. I fucking didn't. You couldn't keep them in the closet until later. You like to put them out there just to fucking lord it over me. Fuck that noise. Birthday presents get opened as soon as you wake up. Now and always. My dad would offer me the best bite from whatever he was eating. The bite of the cheeseburger where the cheese is curled perfectly over the edge of the hamburger, the center bite of a steak, the end point of a piece of pie. He would let me examine his food and point to the best bite which he would then feed me. I do the same for my kids and my husband, and I do this for each other. At night I get into bed with my socks on, and then once I'm under the covers and warm, I take them off by peeling each one off with my big toes. It drives my wife nuts to have my dirty socks in the bed. When I was younger I'd help my mum fold bed sheets. You know, we each grab an end, put the corners together twice to fold lengthways, and then walk towards each other to fold widthways. I used to always give my mum a hug at the end of it, with the bed sheets pressed between us. This would repeat for as many sheets as we needed to fold, 1 or 2 or 3, you know. Now I am 33 years old and when me and my wife fold sheets together, we end it with a hug, plus she gets a little kiss. When I fall asleep, I like to pretend I am very cold and in a cave outdoors. I've done it all my life. When I became a mother, I couldn't imagine it without also imagining my daughter was there. But even in this imaginary scenario, I had to imagine that she was there with me, but somehow safe and warm in her pack and play in a safe sleep position. I sort multicolored candies, Skittles, M&M's, etc. into their respective color groups and eat them one color at a time. But I save one of each color for last, and eat that group all at once. When I'm on a hike I pick up a rock and carry it for about an hour. Then I put it down in a nice spot. I've done that since I was a kid so rocks could change horizons and see the world. I guess. It used to be a real moral dilemma as I debated uprooting the rock and taking him away from his family, but ultimately I always end up doing it. Always take a sip of the water before I swallow a pill with it. Gotta make sure the throat works. When I eat a cosmic brownie, I always eat the side with less sprinkle thingies first so I'm more satisfied when I finish the whole thing. I rub my feet together till I fall asleep. Also, saving best food for last. Fries and then burger. Garlic bread then Alfredo. Also rarely drink anything while eating. I still shake the milk carton before pouring it. I think this came from when my dad left and all we could afford was powdered milk, but I honestly cannot drink milk if it hasn't been shaken. I feel like it won't be uniform. My mum taught me and my brothers about the superstitions with magpies when I was young. Seeing a magpie alone is bad luck, but you could get rid of the bad luck by saying hello Mr. Magpie. How are you and your family today? None of us believed the superstition, but we still do it. Walk on the side of the staircase so it doesn't creak as much. Didn't want my parents to know I was up and about. I blow in my cup before filling it with liquid. I used to think that blowing in the cup would remove the germs. When I was a child my mother made a large round rug out of old pants. It's beautiful with lots of bright colors. We loved racing around it as children, pretending it was a round racetrack or doing our Indian dance around pretending that the red center was our fire. As an adult my mother gave me her old rug. I saved it from being trashed as it had no special meaning to her. When I'm pacing my house while talking on the phone or thinking, I catch myself walking around in circles on the rug. If I can't sleep on my stomach with my right knee pulled up and left arm straight out under my head, I can't sleep. Sucks when you have shoulder issues. Once when I was a teenager, I was all dressed up for something, in heels, and I did a little mock tap dance in the kitchen. My mom looked at me with a little smile on her face and said, "You know, you used to do that when you were 2 years old anytime you wore your dress shoes." Still do. Dress shoes are for tap dancing. Rushing upstairs or into bed after turning out the light. Sometimes I try to walk to prove to myself I can do it, but then I hear something and the adrenaline kicks in so I book it. When I go to the beach I always draw a circle around our stuff. Yeah, no. To protect us from the sea bear. As a kid, I was terrified of vampires, due to watching the original made-for-TV Salem's Lot. I convinced myself that if I slept with the covers up to my chin, they couldn't bite my neck. Didn't work, but I still sleep with covers up to my neck when I lay down in my coffin in the morning. Still sit in the shower like I did when I was a kid. Hell if I'm gonna stand there for the most relaxing time of the day. Edit. A few recurring questions I've gotten. I just sit in the shower, don't have a chair, but now I'm thinking of it. I do clean my shower regularly so it's quite clean. Also, I don't sit when I'm not at home. Seems gross to me. I do it regardless of if I'm in the throes of depression or feeling good. When I see the clock is at a specific hour exactly, like 7 o'clock, I'll very softly say bong that number of times like I'm a grandfather clock. Oh man. This is gonna sound so weird and I have no idea why I did this, and sometimes still do. As a kid, I liked to time how long I peed, but I didn't use numbers. I would repeat the names of the fairies in Sleeping Beauty in my head and count how many times I said all three. Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather over and over, while peeing. Sometimes, I subconsciously still do this. It was so constant as a kid it's like I trained myself to recite this when I pee. When I was a kid, I'd always eat one thing on my plate at a time. Unless it was something like corn and mashed potatoes, then I'd mix that together. I'm a grown man these days, still eating everything individually off my plate. Apparently it's noticeable because people have questioned me about it. These days I just tell them that if I'm poisoned by my constituents, they'll know which item was poisoned. Whenever I go up my staircase I still climb my way up. This is going to sound silly, but every night before I fall asleep I lay in bed and write stories in my head. I thought I would grow out of it eventually, but now the stories are just way more complex lol. Whenever I hear an airplane or helicopter I'll look up to find it. I put milk in my ice cream. My dad grew up very poor and always moving around, so even as a kid he learned to stretch a buck. This was back in the 70s. When I was a kid though, even though my dad had pretty decent money, he would still pour milk into my ice cream and turn it into basically a big bowl of milkshake. To this day I still do the same and I'm 25. It's just how I enjoy ice cream. Makes it a little less sweet, and you feel like you are overindulging on a ton of ice cream when it's about 1/3 RD milk. Whenever I eat a sandwich I start from the crust, so I have all the fluffy part in the end. Been doing this since I was 5. Thank you very much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment and subscribe. We post every day at 6 PM, so turn on your notifications. Have a good day friends.